In the last lecture, we learned how to navigate programmatically. Now I want to also have a look at how we can use relative paths there. So back in our servers component, let's say we have again our reload page link, but this time it's a button here with button primary, and still we might use this approach because we want to do some different things. So reload page, and here I will have my click listener on reload maybe. So if we now go to our TypeScript code, here on reload will be the method which gets triggered. And we already inject this service here. I also want to inject the router. So let's add router here. Make sure to add the import from @AngularRouter. So we learned that now we could say this router navigate. And now let's add /servers here. If we do this, and we save this page, and we go to the servers page and click reload, nothing happens. We don't get an error because we are already on this page. Technically, it still reloads the page, but keep in mind it never sends a request, so this reload icon will never spin. But Angular simply determined that we are on this page, so no further action is needed. Now let's say we remove the slash at the beginning, so we turn this into a relative path, and we still are on the servers component, keep this in mind. So now if this reloaded and we click this page, we still don't get an error. And now this might be strange because before, when we used the router link, you saw that we did get an error because it would try to add servers to the end of this path. And of course this route now doesn't exist. So why does it work fine if we use the navigate method? Because unlike the router link, the navigate method doesn't know on which route you're currently on, so to say. The router link always knows in which component it sits, in which component's template, and therefore it knows what the currently loaded route is. Now you could argue that here we also call this inside of the component TypeScript code, so it could determine where it is in, but it's just not how it works. So to tell this where we currently are in, we have to pass a second argument to the navigate method, which is a JavaScript object, and here we can configure this navigation action. Now I will come back to this later because there are more things we can add, but one configuration is the relative to property here. Here we define relative to which route this link should be loaded, and by default this is always the root domain, which is why we didn't get an error for this servers path. Here we have to give a route though, so we don't pass a string here. Instead the route is something we can inject here too. We can get the currently active route by injecting route, which is of type activated route. And make sure to import activated route from the @AngularRouter package too. Now activated route, like the name implies, simply injects the currently active route. So for the component you loaded, this will be the route which loaded this component. And the route simply is kind of a complex JavaScript object which keeps a lot of meta information about the currently active route. Now we can set this as a value, so this route, this injected route, for the relative to property. And now with that extra piece of information, Angular knows what our currently active route is, and theoretically you could also set this to some other route which you would have to get by some way. So here we're telling it, now our currently active route is this activated route, so relative to this route you should navigate, and then it will simply resolve all the relative paths you might have here relative to this route. So if this change in place, if we now click this button again, now we broke the app because now it again tries to find servers/servers, which doesn't exist. So great, we broke the app. But with that, you should understand how you can work with relative paths in the navigate method. You define relative to what this path should be loaded. The default is the root URL. That might be the behavior you're looking for. It might not be the behavior you're looking for. You can change it with this extra JavaScript object, second argument to the navigate method, where you have the relative to property you can set to the route you want to navigate relative to. For now, I will simply comment this out to disable this not working button and still keep the code in this example project.